table. Chad taking game 1 as we look at our second one, and he's got a good board going for the second one. He has 2 prized amalgams, 3 bloodghasts. Over on Dylan Hand's side, we do have Thalia's Lieutenant and Champion of the Parish.
I want to say that's the Judge promo Gaddock Teague in the ranks.
It does.
Turns off Conflagrate.
Yeah, even when flashed back, it's still an X spell, right? So we cannot cast. Reflector Mage going to be cast by Dylan Hand. And before that's in play, it looks like Dark Blast will take care of Thalia's Lieutenant.
Hand set up with pretty good blockers now. Champion of the Parish up to a 4/4, so it can just check the prized amalgam. Reflector Mage, really easy block on Bloodghasts. The Dark Blast changes things a little bit. Would imagine that Harney dredges that one.
All right, so with pretty sizable grip, it's a swing of 6. He'll go to 11. 2 Narcomoeba, Conflagrate in hand. Okay, so this Gaddock Teague is doing work. As the Dark Blast mills over another Conflagrate.
Yeah, not ideal.
Yeah, now over the next 2 turns, if he can survive to it, he can actually set up a Dark Blast that would remove Gaddock Teague.
If he has a second black mana.
You're right. With only the mana Confluence, that play is not available.
Yeah, so the play you're talking about is in your upkeep, Dark Blast your 2/2 creature, dredge Dark Blast for my draw step, Dark Blast it again. But you got to be able to cast it twice on the same turn.
And says he can't, Chad will go the opposite route. He will just attack. Here's a swing for 9.
And this game seems to have largely just shaped up to be a straight damage race. And it looks like Hand is prioritizing cracking back. Just taking the full 9 down to 7. It makes more sense, when Harney can't Conflagrate.
Yeah. And that Dark Blast is doing work. Normally Dylan would have a free block on a Bloodghast with that Reflector Mage, but he knows that Dark Blast is there.
Right. And unless there's an additional blocker, Hand is a setup that's lethal with a Thalia's Lieutenant. He's currently attacking for 8, and he would get to double pump the Champion and pump the Reflector Mage. That'd be 11.
Cannot cast that prized amalgam. It was reflected last turn. Now Chad can cast Narcomoeba, but if he does, he goes down, he takes a damage, and he loses that Dark Blast ability.
Right. And he also can't cast prized amalgam because he only produce one of its 2 colors.
Oh yeah. That's a good reason too.
Right. Pretty bad mana trouble for Harney. We've kind of seen that happen with dredge decks this weekend. Another Reflector Mage on this Narcomoeba would be a big turn for Hand. As with humans, when it comes to producing another copy of something, one you already have on the battlefield, you get more draws to that when it comes to Phantasmal Image.
Back on Dylan's side. First question is whether or not he can assemble lethal. Looks like the answer is no. He makes Champion of the Parish. So now that he can't assemble lethal, the question is, can he defend? Champion of the Parish becomes a 5/5.
He has some creatures that he really does not care about blocking with. Even if he loses them, it won't be a big deal here as long as he gets to apply some pressure with the attack. And this is huge.
Reflector Mage copies, or Phantasmal Mage copies Reflector Mage, and bounces the Narcomoeba. This is just lethal, right?
Yeah, because of the Confluence was activated. That is a lethal attack. We're going to game 3.
Yeah, swing for 10. So Dylan Hand going to even things up.
We covered Dylan Hand recently. I guess he was on in the tournament last weekend. He had Anafenzas in his sideboard. He actually has those in the main deck this week. 2 Anafenzas foremost. Still capable of losing game 1s, as you saw, but he's also boarding in 3 Tormod's Crypts and 2 is Static Casters.
He is showing a lot of respect for this matchup.
Yes, and it makes sense. This deck has been very popular and putting up pretty solid results.
Yeah, now on Chad Harney's side, there's not as much he can do about the matchup. I mean, we've seen actually a second Dark Blast in the main, not just one. That's certainly on the higher end of things here.
Yeah. He has 3 Lightning Axes. That'll be helpful against those Anafenzas. And a pair of Assassin's Trophy, which figures to be pretty good in really every matchup for Dredge.
Yeah. The three copies of Lightning Axe in the sideboard as well for additional removal.
Yeah, one of those to clean up that Gaddock Teague would have been really nice in that game, so you could actually conflagrate.
Both these players having a great weekend in Dallas. Both were at the Open. Chad Harney finishing in 11th place with Dredge. And Dylan Hand in 29th. So both top 32 finishes. Both 4-0 this weekend.
Yeah. Yeah, Hand has been putting up really good results on the tour. He decided to really take Magic seriously, and it's been working out for him so far. You see he's number 7 on our leaderboard. Handful of top 8s already.
Does, yeah. All the way up to 7th here. Yeah, that's enough to get him the second bye moving forward. Looks like on Chad Harney, after the 11th place finish, running back the exact 75 from last weekend.
Don't mess with success.
It was a great deck last weekend. Yeah.
He's already packing the counter hate measures. Now, the difference is going to be he'll probably play against more hate this weekend. But we talked to players that play a lot of Dredge. Ross Merriam, who has written kind of at length about Dredge for StarCityGames.com, likes to mention that a lot of decks are just significantly unfavored in Game 1 against Dredge. And at a point where your Game 1s are so good, even if your opponent's packing somewhere in the order of 4 sideboard cards, there's a really reasonable chance that you either just have the answer, you Assassin's Trophy their Leyline, or you just play one sideboard game where their hate just doesn't show up. You only have so many cards.
Yeah. On Dylan's side, there's actually a lot of rearranging in his deck list after last weekend. So last weekend he was on a Mayor of Avabrook style humans deck with a lot of different creature options in the sideboard. As you mentioned, switching over to these Anafenzas in the main deck this weekend, no Mayors. And then actually dropping a lot of, to make room for Termods, Crypts, and Damping Spheres, dropping a lot out of his sideboard. No Auriok Champions, kind of giving away the Dredge matchup, and shaving on cards like Sin Collector as well. Chad on the play here for game number 3. We will get things started. Faithless Looting will discard a prized amalgam and a life from the loam.
Pretty reasonable start.
Yeah. Check on Tormod's Crypt from Dylan. It does not happen, so he'll just make Champion of the Parish. And Chad took a natural draw as opposed to dredging there.
Ooh, and I think
Did he hit?
He drew his second land.
That's so aggressive. I mean, well done.
Well, I mean, the keep was Faithless Looting.
Oh, yeah.
So he had a lot of
It's
looks
a
at the
keep.
second land, but he did find it on the last possible draw.
And we've seen this play out. Here is Thalia. And this happened round 1. We saw Jake Humphreys versus Emma Handy. It looks like in response, the Lightning Axe will shoot down the Champion of the Parish.
And part of the reason for this is Harney has another Lightning Axe in hand already.
Okay. Life from the Loam will be dredged, finds Dark Blast and Bloodghast. His hand is Assassin's Trophy, Life from the Loam, Lightning Axe, Conflagrate. Not too bad.
Given that he milled over the Dark Blast there,
Yeah.
I imagine that he wants to try to kill the Thalia with that, so he'll wait here. In particular, lets him save the Lightning Axe instead in case of hand producing, say, Anafenza the foremost on this turn.
Yeah, I'm interested because I agree. At the same time, that's moving really slow. That means he doesn't spend his mana this turn, and I'd like to cast Life from the Loam at some point. Gaddock Teague here from Dylan. And you will see whether he just chooses to untap here or whether this earns his Lightning Axe. Looks like he will axe on Okay, I like this. On Gaddock, discarding the Conflagrate, and then I think the Dark Blast now can finish off Thalia.
Yeah, I think that the plan, unless the creature was really poor, he was going to Lightning Axe something. That is a good dredge.
Drain you for 6. This is fair.
2 Creeping Chills and a Prized Amalgam.
This Creeping Chill card's a nice one.
Don't even have to cast it. Just free through Thalia.
Chad knocks down to 20 on this attack. Champion of the Parish from Dylan, no more lands, and now Dark Blast takes care of the 2-1, and things are looking Chad's way.
And reasonable chance that Dark Blast takes care of the 1-1 as well.
Yeah. He'll dredge Dark Blast.
And he's already dredged Life from the Loam, right? So he can just do both this turn?
I believe so. Mills over another land there in Snow-Covered Mountain. A lot to like here. He'll just pass. It does have Assassin's Trophy up. Mantis Rider. We'll see Dark Blast in response. Chad will go to 17.
That is so gross that this attack's only putting him to 17.
Yeah.
That double Creeping Chill that's just filthy.
Oh, how about a third one?
Not bad.
Back to 20. my deck is racing your creature.
20 to 8. I have not attacked you at all.
And you know, this is why we didn't loam last turn, Ryan. There were only 2 lands in the graveyard last turn. We had to wait till we'd milled a third land.
Yeah, you're just missing on value.
And so now he loams back all 3. Plays Copperline Gorge. That will trigger get back some Bloodghasts.
Yeah, the issue was there was no black land, so he couldn't have lifed into Dark Blast.
The Bloodghasts have haste, because, you know, Creeping Chill.
Oh, yeah, and there's some Amalgams hanging out, too.
Dylan down to 6. Delayed trigger on 2 prized Amalgams.
Did I mention the Conflagrate in the graveyard?
Creeping Chill's messed up.
This is looking really good for Harney. Even if hand has Tormod's Crypt this turn, he already just has so much.
Well, he started the game at 11.
Yeah.
Bloodghast, that less than 10 life clause is really good when your opponent starts at 11.
You know, they printed so much stuff in Guilds of Ravnica that specifically checks for when you surveil. But then they added this one card, like, you can't get back your Blood Operative if you dredge over it. But, like, Creeping Chill, hey, what's the worst that could happen?
I don't know. Chad will go down to 14 as 2 Mantis Riders swing on in. In order to Dylan's side, 4 cards in hand. You mentioned that Conflagrate. I think if there were enough lands, he could just loam Conflagrate for the win here.
I'm pretty sure he has a.
Oh, how about the 4th chill? The 4th chill. Okay, that's too much.
He just. Starting Lactoros 32 to 8.
Let's see. Can my Conflagrate deck deal 8 to you? Hold on. What a.
Oh my. How about that dredge deck?
Yeah. All right. I see why everyone likes playing this one.